There is something happening inside you right now. Not tomorrow, not in a few years, not after something goes wrong. Right now, as you read this, your body is doing something it has been doing your entire life. It is sending you messages, quiet ones, subtle ones, sometimes urgent ones. And the frightening part is not that these signals are hard to understand. The frightening part is that most people have simply never been taught how to listen. We live in a world where we wait for pain before we pay attention. We wait for a diagnosis, for a number on a test result, for something obvious and undeniable before we take the body seriously. But the body almost never starts with a shout. It starts with a whisper, a slight dip in energy, a change in how you sleep, a craving that appears out of nowhere, a feeling of heaviness that seems like it might just be stress. These are not random. These are not just life. These are your body trying to communicate with you in the only language it has. Think of your body like a highly advanced monitoring system. It is running thousands of checks every single second. Your blood pressure, your hormone balance, your fluid levels, your temperature, your digestion, your immune response. All of it is being tracked and adjusted in real time. And when something starts to shift in the wrong direction, the system does not immediately shut down. It raises a flag. It sends a signal. It gives you a window to respond before the problem becomes serious. Most people miss that window entirely. Not because they do not care about their health, but because nobody ever explained what the signals actually look like. That is what this is about. Not symptoms that land you in a hospital, not the obvious signs everyone already knows. This is about the quiet signals, the early ones, the ones your body has probably been sending you for months or even years, that most people write off as aging, stress, or just the way things are. Let us start with one of the most common and most ignored signals of all: fatigue that does not make sense. Not the tiredness you feel after a long day of physical work, not the kind of tired that disappears after a full night of sleep, the kind of tired that is just there, a low-grade, constant heaviness. You wake up and you already feel like something has been taken from you before the day even begins. You push through, because pushing through is what people do. You have coffee, you get moving, and by midday, you're searching for something to carry you to the evening. Most people explain this away with the obvious. They blame their schedule, they blame their age, they blame the world being demanding. But here is what is actually happening inside the body when chronic fatigue like this takes hold. In many cases, it is a sign that your cells are not producing energy efficiently. The mitochondria, which are the tiny structures inside your cells responsible for generating power, are operating below capacity. This can happen for many reasons. It can happen when blood sugar is chronically unstable, swinging up and down in response to how and when you eat. It can happen when your thyroid is underfunctioning, even in a range that doctors might not immediately flag. It can happen when your iron levels are low enough to affect oxygen transport, but not low enough to show up as dramatic anemia. It can happen when your body is carrying a chronic low level of inflammation that is quietly burning through your resources without ever declaring itself as a specific condition. The signal is real. The body is not being dramatic. It is telling you that something in the system is working harder than it should, or not working as well as it needs to. And when you just push through it with caffeine and willpower, you are not fixing the problem. You are simply borrowing against a reserve that is already running low. Now here is something that connects directly to this. One of the clearest early warning signals the body sends is through the patterns of your hunger and your cravings. Hunger is not just a simple message that says your stomach is empty. It's a complex hormonal communication involving at least a dozen different signals from your gut, your fat tissue, your pancreas, your brainstem, and your hypothalamus. When the system is working well, hunger comes on gradually, feels manageable, and goes away after a reasonable amount of food. When the system is starting to break down, hunger becomes something different. It becomes urgent. It becomes specific. It becomes about one thing and one thing only. If you find yourself craving sugar or refined carbohydrates in a way that feels almost impossible to resist, that is your body sending a very specific signal about blood sugar regulation. What typically happens is that blood sugar has spiked and then dropped sharply, and now the brain is in mild distress because it runs almost exclusively on glucose. In that moment of the crash, the craving is not a preference, it is a response to what the brain interprets as an emergency. The problem is that responding to it with more sugar restarts the same cycle, and over time the swings get more extreme and the cravings get louder. If your cravings lean towards salt, the signal is different. The adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys, produce hormones that help regulate fluid and salt balance in the body. When those glands are under stress, which they often are in people who are chronically sleep-deprived, chronically anxious, or running on stimulants, one of the hormones that regulates salt retention starts to drop. The body responds by craving salt because it is genuinely trying to hold on to what it needs. That salty craving is not just a food preference, it is a request.
If you want to go even deeper into exactly this kind of internal body communication, there is a complete guide in the pinned comment below called Body's Hidden Signals. It goes organ by organ and explains what your daily habits are actually doing inside you at a level most people never get access to. It is worth reading after this. Now, let us talk about something that almost everyone experiences, but almost no one takes seriously as a body signal. Changes in how you sleep. Not just how long you sleep, but the quality of what happens while you are asleep. Sleep is not simply a rest state. During sleep, your body runs what is essentially a full maintenance cycle. Your brain flushes waste products through a system called the glymphatic system. Your pituitary gland releases growth hormone that repairs tissue. Your immune system consolidates its response to anything it encountered during the day. Your memory is organized and stored. Your cortisol levels are supposed to drop to their lowest point, and your melatonin is supposed to hold you in deep, restorative sleep for enough hours to complete all of these processes. When you start waking up in the middle of the night, especially between 1 and 4 in the morning, your body is often sending a signal about cortisol dysregulation. Normally, cortisol, which is your primary stress hormone, follows a daily rhythm. It should be low at night, begin rising around 4 in the morning, and peak shortly after waking to give you the alertness and energy to start the day. But in people who are chronically stressed, overstimulated, or eating in patterns that create blood sugar instability, cortisol can spike at inappropriate times during the night. That spike is often what wakes you. Your heart might beat slightly harder, your mind might suddenly feel alert even though your body is exhausted. You lie there, unable to understand why you cannot just stay asleep. That pattern, repeated over weeks and months, is one of the body's clearest signals that the nervous system response is out of rhythm. Then there's the signal that comes through your skin. The skin is often thought of as purely cosmetic, something to clean and moisturize and protect from the sun. But it's actually one of the most revealing external surfaces the body has. The skin is constantly reflecting what is happening internally. Persistent dryness in specific areas, particularly on the lower legs, the elbows, and the heels, can reflect a slowing of thyroid function. The thyroid controls metabolism at the cellular level, and when it is underperforming, the skin cells turn over more slowly, producing a dry, rough texture that no amount of lotion fully addresses, because the issue is not on the surface, it's in the rate at which the body is renewing itself. Breakouts along the jaw and chin, particularly in adults, are frequently tied to hormonal fluctuations, specifically shifts in androgens, the hormones that govern oil production in the skin. These fluctuations can be driven by disrupted sleep, high sugar intake, elevated cortisol, or imbalances in insulin. The skin is simply showing you what the hormonal environment inside looks like. Small, yellowish deposits around the eyes, known as xanthelasma, are a signal that deserves real attention.
They can indicate that cholesterol metabolism is not working optimally. And while they are not dangerous on their own, they are worth understanding because they often appear before blood tests catch anything significant. Even the color of your skin tells a story. A yellowish tint can indicate that the liver is under stress. A bluish tinge around the lips or fingertips can indicate that circulation or oxygen delivery is compromised. Paleness of the inner eyelids is a classic and highly accessible sign of low iron. None of these are diagnoses, but all of them are signals, and they are all visible if you know what to look for. Let us shift to the gut, because the body sends more signals through digestion than most people realize. Bloating is one of the most common experiences in modern life, and it is also one of the most consistently ignored. Many people have been bloated so regularly and for so long that they have simply accepted it as normal. But bloating is a signal. It is the digestive system telling you that something in the process of breaking down and absorbing food is not working as it should. This might be bacterial imbalance in the gut microbiome, where certain types of microorganisms that produce gas have grown disproportionately large compared to the ones that support smooth digestion. It might be low stomach acid, which sounds counterintuitive because many people assume that digestive issues mean too much acid, when in reality, low stomach acid allows food to sit and ferment rather than being broken down efficiently. It might be inadequate digestive enzymes, slow gut motility, or a sensitivity to specific foods that is creating an immune response in the gut lining. Constipation is another signal that gets normalized when it should not be. The body is designed to move waste out efficiently. When that process slows down dramatically, it reflects something about hydration, fiber intake, gut motility, thyroid function, or the balance of the gut microbiome. The stool itself carries information. Very pale stools can signal reduced bile production, which connects to liver and gallbladder function. Dark, tarry stools are one of the body's most urgent signals and should always be taken seriously. Changes in frequency, consistency, or urgency that persist for more than a week or two are your digestive system raising its hand and asking for attention. Now, let us shift to something that operates below the level of conscious awareness for most people: the signals that come through your mood, your focus, and your emotional state. Most people understand that mental health is connected to the brain. What fewer people fully internalize is that the brain is not running in isolation. It's downstream of everything else happening in the body. Your mood is affected by your gut bacteria, which produce roughly 90% of your body's serotonin. Your ability to focus is directly connected to how stable your blood sugar is throughout the day, because the brain requires a steady glucose supply to maintain the neurochemical environment for sustained attention. Your anxiety levels are influenced by your cortisol patterns, your magnesium status, your B vitamin levels, and even by the inflammatory load your immune system is currently managing.
When people experience unexplained irritability, sudden sadness that does not match their circumstances, or brain fog that makes clear thinking feel like pushing through mud, these are signals. They are not just emotional states to be managed with willpower. They are the brain and the body communicating that something in the underlying chemistry is off. Chronic low-grade inflammation driven by poor sleep, high sugar intake, chronic stress, or gut imbalance directly affects brain function. Inflammatory molecules can cross into the brain and interfere with the way neurons communicate. The result is often experienced as depression, brain fog, or a kind of emotional flatness that does not respond to the usual things that used to bring energy or joy. This is where things start to become deeply practical, because understanding that these signals are connected changes how you respond to them. When you know that your afternoon brain fog is likely tied to a blood sugar crash from lunch, you do not just push through it or reach for more caffeine. You understand what happened, and you can make a different choice the next time. When you know that waking at 3 in the morning is a cortisol signal, you begin to look at your evening habits, your screen exposure before bed, your stress patterns, your relationship with stimulants. The signal becomes useful instead of just frustrating. There is also a set of signals that the body sends through the body's relationship with temperature. Feeling cold all the time, particularly in the hands and feet, even when others in the same environment feel comfortable, is a signal that circulation or thyroid function deserves attention. Cold extremities often reflect that the body is conserving warmth toward the core, which it does when it perceives a resource shortage, whether from low caloric intake, thyroid insufficiency, iron deficiency affecting oxygen delivery, or a nervous system in a state of chronic low-level stress response. The hands and feet are the first places to lose heat when the body goes into a conservation mode. If yours are consistently cold without an obvious reason, the body is telling you something about how it is managing its resources. Excessive sweating without physical exertion, particularly at night, is another signal that tends to be brushed aside until it becomes dramatic. Night sweats can reflect hormonal transitions, which are common and expected at certain life stages, but they can also reflect infection, blood sugar dysregulation, where adrenaline is being released to correct nighttime hypoglycemia, or an immune system dealing with something that has not yet declared itself through more obvious symptoms. What runs through all of these signals is a common thread. The body is not random. It is not making things up. Every signal has a cause, and every cause has a context. The reason most people miss these signals is not lack of intelligence or lack of care. It is that modern life has made it incredibly easy to suppress signals rather than understand them. Painkillers suppress the signal of pain without addressing its source. Antacids suppress the signal of reflux without examining what created the acid environment. Stimulants suppress the signal of fatigue without restoring the energy systems that are failing. The suppression becomes habitual, and eventually the signal has to get louder to be heard at all. The single most important shift you can make in your relationship with your own body is to begin treating its signals as information rather than an inconvenience. The headache that appears every afternoon is not just a headache, it is a pattern, and patterns have causes. The energy crash after certain meals is not just how things are, it is a response you can learn from. The tightness in your chest when you feel overwhelmed is not weakness, it is your nervous system showing you that it is at capacity and something needs to change. Your body is not working against you, it never has been. Every signal, even the uncomfortable ones, even the disruptive ones, is an attempt to keep you functioning, to protect you, to alert you before something becomes irreversible. The signals are there. They have always been there. The only question is whether you are paying attention. And when you start paying attention, something quietly powerful happens. You begin to understand the relationship between what you do and how you feel at a level that goes beyond general advice. You notice that your energy is different on days when you sleep a certain way. You notice that your mood shifts in response to what you ate 48 hours ago. You notice that your digestion responds to stress before your mind consciously registers that you are stressed. You start to see the body not as something that happens to you, but as something that is constantly communicating with you, giving you information you can actually use. That awareness is not just good for preventing problems, it is the foundation of a completely different quality of life. People who understand their body's signals make better decisions, recover faster from stress, manage their energy more effectively, and often catch issues early enough that they resolve with changes in habits rather than requiring medical intervention. The body gives you time. It gives you windows. It gives you signals before it gives you consequences. Most people spend decades ignoring those signals and then feel blindsided when something serious emerges. But the truth is that the body was never silent. You just were not yet listening. Now you are. The complete Body Hidden Signals Guide is in the pinned comment below. It takes everything described in this video and goes deeper, connecting your daily habits to specific internal processes in a way that makes it real and actionable. If something in this video felt familiar, that guide is the next step.